players in our club haven't been able to handle that pressure in the last 11 years. So when I hear we have to be on it and act this way to get our club to improve, my question is, we've been like this for 11 years and we ain't fucking improved. So maybe we have to look at ourselves and as fans, go about it a different way. Maybe we are also not helping. And it's a theory. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm just looking at it and thinking to myself, I want loads of things to change at the club. Maybe as fans, we have to kind of change, because we know the standards ain't right. And I don't know if you guys saw Phil Jones. He was doing a show with
yeah, I've seen it
with Rio, and he was talking about the dancing in the dressing room. Now, it was a contentious point at the time because a lot of people made it about race and discrimination, and I understand that because there are lots of scumbags out there that do make those conversations about race and around where somebody is from, their religion or their background. But when you listen to the United players who had the high standards, who worked under the greatest manager, and this is what always worries me about Standard FC, because Standard FC are the first to turn around and say, the Man United Standard FC people, the first to go, fuck the past, fuck the Fergie era, fuck the legends, we've got to move forward now. But as soon as things don't go right, they go, I got high standards. But your high standards are based on the people that you're saying fuck off to. It doesn't make sense. So you can only have high standards for Man United if you fell in love with the club during a time where the standards were high. But yet you don't want to listen to the people that set the high fucking standards. It doesn't make sense to me. I listened to what Rio Ferdinand said, and he was like, when I saw United in sixth and Man United players dancing and being happy after games, it was just the optics of it. But then it was speaking to Rio, and speaking to Rooney, and Rooney was like, I can't believe what's going on. But there's so many players at the club now that think this is okay. I can't turn it round. All of these little things have to change at Man United. And I just feel that, again, I'm not calling out Paul Pogba and Lingard for dancing. It was the culture at the club at the time. But all these little things are not going to be fixed just by sacking Ten Hag and bringing in a better manager. All these things are going to take, that's why I think it's going to take years to fix. But if you really care about the standards of the football club, you have to listen to what winners at Man United or in the past have said. And if that means calling out your favorite player for their own personal behavior, you've got to do it. My issue with a lot of people is they pick and choose when they want the club or players to have high standards, depending on who the individual is and whether they like them or not. And I think all of these things fundamentally have to be addressed. And people have got to learn to be balanced and unbiased with it. And I think listen to the successful people, personally.
Well, I'll just come in as well. I'm interested to hear Potsy's view on this. Yeah, listening to everything that you say in there, you sound like a confused football club, and this comes from leadership at the top. You don't know whether it's your manager, you don't know whether it's your players. Your fan base is arguing about your players. Your fan base is arguing about the manager. Your fan base is now turning on Ineos. Your fan base still moans about the Glazers. You're talking about your stadiums all the time. You know what I mean? It's complete chaos. Yeah, and it all stems from a lack of leadership. It all stems from a lack of leadership, a lack of direction, a proper plan. Because since Ineos come into the football club, I've not been able to see, as a football fan looking in, who's not emotionally invested in a football club, any real change in direction. It just seems like it's more of the same. And that's why I think some United fans are starting to get the hump a little bit with Ineos, because they're saying, what's going on? This is just the same as what it was with the Glazers. So the Ineos now, they've got no excuses. They've been in there a long time now, They've got to get control of this situation. They've got to sack him, get a new manager in, and then really start pulling the strings on transfers, getting some players out that they need to get rid of, and getting the club moving in the same direction. It just seems to me, looking in from outside, just a club that lacks leadership, and that's why everything's just in chaos.
Do you know what?
Agreed.
I've got to say, if you go back to the Arsene Wenger, actually, let's not go back that far. Let's go back to the start of Arteta with Arsenal fans, right? There was a section that thought, what the hell is this? Why are we bringing in someone that hasn't managed a football club before? The results are absolute shambles. We need to remove them. There's another section of the fan base that said, no, let's give him time. I'm not prepared to just keep sacking managers. Winning cures all. Because for 8th and 5th, everybody that was patient was starting to think, crikey, maybe they're right. But until we started to win games, all of a sudden our fan base start to unite a little bit more, because I think, you know what, this is actually, fair. Oh, wow. Oh, my God, it's really good now. We're challenging. Winning cures all. That means, essentially, you have to find a manager that is going to be able to get this current crop of players, which doesn't look the best, winning football matches. Now, I don't think it is the best. I don't think you're going to be in a title race. But you know what? you could quite easily still turn your season around if you've got the right man in charge to go and win a trophy and potentially fight for European football. The side is not great, but it's not like, oh my God, this side should be floating around 12th. It's not that sort of level of squad.
No.
So for me, I look at it and I think it could quite easily get somebody in. Let's just say it's Thomas Tuchel, right? Let's just say it's, if that's the rumor. Let's just say he comes in. He's got a CV of knowing how to win games. He's got trophies on his CV as well. He's also managed in the Premier League before, and he knows what it's like to come up against some of these teams. And also, he knows what it's like to be a big club, right? So it's not like he's only really managed, Legia Warsaw, and then he went to, sort of Porto level. Sort of, he's actually gone to a huge club before in Bayern Munich. He's been at Chelsea, he's been at PSG, Dortmund as well, to be fair. So I think you could look at that and go, right, what can he get out of this group of players? And if it is only good enough to get sixth, the majority of your fan base will then start to go, right, okay, now let's actually look at this and go, we're uniting. We've got money. We've got Glazers that are willing to spend. We've got actually structure behind it. We've got a good winning manager. And now we're starting to play good football. Yes, it's European football. We don't want to be there. But the next level is Champions League. The next level is competing. That's what Man United have got to try and get to, mate. And when I look at the infighting at the moment, I think it's insane that you've actually got a section of your fan base that are sticking up for Ten Hag because they think overnight it is going to change into, look at what happened with Arteta. It's completely different to Arteta. There is no progression whatsoever at Man United under Ten Hag.
I especially not in the league. I completely agree. And LB, what you said was so on the money. It is a confused football club and fan base, and I put myself in this. I'm not speaking outside of that the whole way through this, but I have certainly at times been more forgiving of certain players than others on a preference level. Certain managers, I was far more forgiving with Jose when he started to fail than I was with, say, Ollie as an example. But that's because I thought that Jose's pedigree was there maybe. But all of these things have gone wrong and the culture got eradicated because we had an ownership and leadership team for too long that listened not to the fans per se, but they were reactive to the fans. So Jose was doing quite well. And then he didn't want Pogba and Martial to remain. And so many people in our fan base turned on him because of that. And he'd just been given a new deal. But the Glazers said no. Essentially, the fan base want them. They're great for our commerciality. We're sticking with them. It lost all the control and power that he had as a manager, and it was eroded and eradicated. And I'm not blaming Martial and Pogba. It isn't on those two individuals. It was on the people running the football club. And I think this, and that was also in the era where we were telling the manager, you're in control. You've got full power. And then we were pulling the rug from underneath their feet. All of these little moments, and there's dozens of them, have led to where we are now, where we are a Frankenstein football club. We legitimately are, LB. You're so spot on. And the fan base is torn. And we want this and we want that, but we're not patient enough for that. We don't understand that it's going to take time to fix the culture. Now, some people go, I don't think there's anything wrong with players having fun after a defeat or sitting sixth in the league table. And I understand where they're coming from. But you need to... I had an argument with a United fan years ago. I don't know where he is now. I don't see him on socials anymore. He told me, and I'd love to throw this at you two. This is when Liverpool and City were at their pomp. It's like 2019, 2020. He said he doesn't believe that during training or after games, during games or after games or in training, that the Man United dressing room and the behaviours in there is any different to that at City or Liverpool. He thinks that the behaviour, the attitude, the preparation, the concentration, the seriousness, he don't believe there's any difference between how Man United's players behave and conduct themselves versus the Liverpool and City players.
I don't know about that.
And that
mentality certainly doesn't show it, because I look at players like Rashford and Bruno, and I think, well, your mentality at the moment, in my opinion, is a shambles. I mean, particularly Bruno as the captain, he's getting sent off more than he's scoring goals. Marcus Rashford, although he did play well against Porto, and I don't know why he got subbed off, to be fair, but that's another question. For me, I feel personally like he has been underachieving and overrated for a very, very long time now. I think there's a definite mentality problem at Manchester United. There definitely is, man.
There certainly is, and I think that the problem with it is that there are certain things I think you can equate to I think you can equate everything to normal working life, but you have to understand the levels of it. So I think when you're a professional football player, with the money you earn, the fame you get, the power you have, that is akin to high-level jobs in law firms, high-level jobs in banking or the government. It isn't the equivalence of somebody that is, one of my first jobs, stacking shelves in Superdrug on a Saturday, right? If we haven't had a great week in the Superdrug store because a few cashiers have lost some money, but I'm out the back in the staff room having a laugh and a joke in my lunch break, that's not a mentality problem per se. But if I work for a major bank and we have had an awful quarter where we're down on money, we've had 2 massive regulation breaches where we're going to be investigated by the FCA, and I'm in the staff quarters laughing and joking about it, making TikToks and dancing, and my MD walks in, I'm getting ripped apart. He is, again, if I'm doing that in the pub with my mates on a Saturday, there's no issue. But if I'm doing that in the place of work when it's going wrong and I'm in a high profile, high paid job, you are finished. And sometimes I think the problems that all fan bases have is that we cannot comprehend the level of responsibility that comes with a high profile, highly paid job if you've never been in that environment. And I think that is where, again, maybe as I've got older, I've got no issue with the clothes that Paul Pogba wore or his haircuts. I don't think that's a mentality issue.
Yeah, that'd be wild if you did.
No, of course it is, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What I now look back and do have an issue with, I think there's a time and a place for having fun. And I don't think that is in the changing room after a defeat when you're sitting 6th in the league table. I think you have to be responsible in how you look. In fact, you should be in such a bad mood straight after a game in the dressing room that you don't feel like dancing and partying.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And I think it's getting the balance right.
Bro, it's like these, Mason Mount on Instagram smiling on his Instagram story saying, "Don't worry, lads, I'm all right." Bro, you just lost. Is that when you lost 3-0 against Spurs? That game?
Yes. Rasmus Højlund midweek putting the thing out
on Instagram or whatever.
All of that I put into that same category. It's almost a case of none of you, and this has been going on for years, are reading the room. And the irony is, some of the players doing it now didn't play with the Jesse Lingards and the Rooneys and the Pogbas, but behavior and culture transcends to people that come after you because it's like a lasting effect. It's an echo that doesn't go away. And all of this needs to be addressed. And the one thing I remember saying to you boys on this show when we kept Ten Hag is my thoughts are the rebuild of culture amongst the dressing room is easier with a new coach. And I felt that we would progress faster if we got rid of the manager. And that element under Ineos is definitely a mistake. And as I say, from my perspective and point of view, so much needs fixing at this club. Nothing has really changed. But Ineos have made a mistake, and I think we have been set back a good few months. And I do hope they're not going to give it another 4 weeks, because that is just another 4 weeks of waste that could be used to coach the players. You could start now. You could start today improving the surroundings at the club. But look, we're going to wait and see what happens with this. Look at Bruno, who gives a 30-year-old a 4-year contract. I mean, yeah, you can throw that in there 100%. I think you've got to look at these things here. No, that here saying that they've caught. No, that's not true. I just checked for Rizzio's Twitter feed. That isn't on there. I got really excited for a second then. Super chat here says, results aren't that important right now. It's the stuff you don't see that is going to make the team get results, but you have to do that first. I think it's a combination of both. Results also matter as well, but there's just no way the right things are being done behind the scenes. It's too chaotic. Two of my favorite sports teams were like this. I think it means Arsenal and the Lakers. It took the Lakers 4 years from 2016 to 2020 to win the championship. United will come back when you give constructive criticism, no favorites. Yeah, I hear you. Question for the panel. Keeping Ten Hag earlier this season was a mistake. When Ineos decided to keep Ten Hag again now, is it going to be another mistake? How many mistakes until we realize Ineos are clowns?
Well, you're right. Clowns is a little soon, but you are right. I think it was a mistake that they kept him in the summer. It's a mistake if they keep him now. How long until we say that Ineos are clowns? I think if Ineos give him to the end, if it comes out that Ineos are giving him to the end of the season, I'll call them clowns. If they give him another month, then that's up to them. I still think, I think that's like semi-clown. Yeah, but if they say to the end of the year, then they're clowns.
Agreed.
Yep. And but again, it's little things. I've listened to what you said last week, LB, and I agree with it so much. If we've done all this to eradicate support for him, the new guy comes in and we really start to progress quite rapidly, then maybe it's all going to start to make sense. And I think that's why I'm not making any overarching statements about Ineos right now, because I believe they have to be given time. But I do think keeping him now would be, I don't see any mileage in keeping him now. Viewers, hit the like and the share button for us, and please make sure you are subscribed.